How can you build a thriving business based on solving a problem that you have personally faced? Find out on today's episode of Communicate for Impact Live.
Welcome to Communicate for Impact Live, sharing stories, making connections. We are Douglas and Lisa Marie Hatcher, and we help business people become more effective communicators through storytelling. And today we are delighted to welcome Amy Whitney. Amy is the founder of Expat Spanish Lessons. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, both of you. Very, very nice to be here today. Thanks for inviting me on.
Woohoo! So Amy has a Canadian accent, but you are not living in Canada currently. Why don't you just tell people right now where you live?
Sure. So I'm originally from Kelowna, British Columbia, Canada, born and raised. Around 32 years old, I decided to basically sell everything that I had and move to Mexico to see if I could work it out. Right now, I'm living in Puerto Vallarta, so still here 6 years later.
Wow, that's amazing. Listen, we love your story, your backstory, partly because we love founders who have built their business by solving a problem of their own. You were an expat and you struggled to learn Spanish, and now you're helping others who have the same challenge. Talk a little bit about that journey. Obviously, it's a big journey from Canada to Mexico, but also talk about how you started your business and how you were able to help other people solve the kind of problems that you were facing when it came to learning a new language.
Yeah, absolutely. So my Spanish journey has been a very, very long one. I'm not sure how many years right now, but somewhere in the 20-year range. And for 14 of those years, I was really stuck at a beginner level. I started with 5 years of high school Spanish, took a break for a couple of years. But when I started to travel, my interest was always in visiting Latin American countries. So everywhere from Colombia, Ecuador, Panama, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Mexico, obviously. And every time that I went, I was always inspired to work on my Spanish, which was always something that I kind of did as a hobby or an interest. But the thing that I faced every time that I was abroad was this knowledge that was in my head that I was supposed to know versus my ability to actually communicate with people. So I had a lot of difficulty with understanding people, and forming any sort of sentence was like a masterpiece that took several minutes to figure out. So it was really frustrating because it was something that I was doing. I was following the systems and the courses that are widely known. Like I tried Rosetta Stone, Duolingo, bought a book with a whole bunch of verb tenses to practice, took private lessons, plus the 5 years of Spanish. So, with all of that, I mean, there's a certain aspect of, okay, you know what? Clearly, I am not meant to learn languages. I should just give up. This is not my thing.
Right, of course.
Right. But on the other side, I was like, as I was traveling in these countries, my vacations were getting longer and longer and longer to the point where they became, I'm kind of working on this online business thing, and I could take that with me. And if I do that, then I can work abroad and spend maybe 2 or 3 months there instead of just having 2 or 3 weeks. And it really flipped to a point where I wanted to stay. I wanted that to be my home destination, and learning Spanish became a really strong priority at that point. So after hitting maximum frustration, because I had motive, couldn't do it, I stepped back, kind of applied maybe the entrepreneurial hat for the first time to look at my Spanish learning journey. And I realized that everything that I was doing was really focused on grammar, memorization, and fill in the blanks type of activities, like a mathematical formula. But what I needed in the real world was really speaking and listening, because that's what I was using every time I needed to go out. Right. As soon as I started to change my focus toward conversations and really trying to study conversations and communication, I got up to an advanced level in less than a year. Wow. And advanced level is, you're pretty much able to do whatever you need to do in the language. You can understand easily and communicate easily. So I knew that I was onto something. Fast forward to my time where I'm here in Puerto Vallarta after this massive struggle to learn all of this Spanish, right, that I needed to learn. When I was here living abroad, I noticed that I was having the same tiny conversations, like this much of my Spanish, every single day. And I was looking around and I thought, well, there's a lot of people that don't speak Spanish that are living in Mexico. And, they tend to put on a front like, oh, yeah, I'm working on it. Oh, yeah, I studied Duolingo, like it's a work in progress. But when you look around, you're like, not very many people speak Spanish. And it's not really their fault. I know where they're coming from. I know the challenge of learning it. So it kind of became clear to me, I think it was back in 2017 when I first started thinking about expat Spanish, that these day-to-day conversations that I was having are really, they included the most common parts of the language, the things that really got me to the level where I was at quickly. And if I could create a course that was based around these everyday situations that people were immediately going to be able to use to start speaking, start listening, and understand more, that would be something that would be really practical for people living abroad like I was. So that's kind of where it started. And just, it took going through the journey to see that clear line of the faster
Yeah, I love how you sort of use yourself and your own experience
path that I could be
as
offered to facilitate learning.
as a test case. That's really good.
So, Amy, you talked about your struggle and how long it took you to get to where you are. What do you think is the biggest mistake people make when they're trying to learn Spanish for the first time?
Okay, so this actually is, it really comes into the heart of what I do and how I differentiate what I do. So the biggest mistake that people do is they take any sort of general Spanish course. And I mean, honestly, 99% of the courses are going to be like this. So they choose a course and they trust blindly that this course is going to teach them what they need. And the type of Spanish that is being taught is really general Spanish for I don't know what purpose, but it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah,
So
like
if
what
you,
kind of dog do you have or something?
yeah, or something like this,
Yeah.
right? Like I was thinking of an analogy. So I mean, we've got business people here, so it's kind of like marketing. Okay, what areas of marketing are we talking about? Are we talking about podcasting, kind of like we're doing right now, SEO, social media marketing, that sort of thing? Or, do we want to try to learn everything? Or do we want to hone into one specific area? So with language courses, they're kind of trying to teach the language very, very broadly for an undefined purpose to one day speak Spanish or pass a test.
Yep.
So I think it's really important for people to critically analyze the type of content that they're studying and ask themselves, when do I see myself using this? And if the answer is, I don't know, then it's probably not something that's really aligned with what you're looking for if you're planning on living abroad for sure.
I
Excellent.
love that. It's like you applied a certain kind of business or marketing mindset to what you developed, and then you turned it into a business.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really important to be specific about what you offer. Otherwise, you just kind of blend in with the rest, and you have to remain unique.
And I think
And
you're,
Douglas and I were talking about
yeah,
that earlier. We were looking at your website, and you have fantastic copywriting because you are so specific about what your offer is, and it's just so clear right up front about what you're offering and what people can get from what you're offering. And you have it down to like seconds and days and minutes, and you're going to do this and number of words, and it's so detailed and it's so clear and concise. It's a great example for others to look at when they're thinking about what they want their websites to look like.
Oh, thank you. I
yeah,
appreciate
it's true. The URL is not hard to remember. It is expatspanishlessons.com. It is, look, you're not only going to learn Spanish, you will learn something about marketing and copywriting. It's not just Spanish lessons, it's expat Spanish lessons. I
Mhm.
mean, that's all you need to
Specificity matters.
know. That's
And
all you need to know about the marketing genius of what you're doing.
Can you tell that I picked that domain back in 2017 when it was just an idea? I'm like, I got to grab that thing.
I mean,
Good for you.
it really is. It's a masterclass in marketing, truly.
Thank you.
So one of the things I noticed was this idea of the phrase method, phrase FRASE. What is that? How does it work? Talk to us about that.
Sure. So the phrase method, or frase in
Ah,
Spanish, think as
frase,
phrase and
frase.
frase, right? So I've done the acronyms for frase. But without breaking it down, really what it comes down to is a lot of people, they learn individual words, but they really struggle with putting it together. And what I've done is, for example, I'll take everyday situation, be like going to the
Amy, we had a little bit of
hello,
a
hello, are we
glitch
back?
coming, those words coming back from
Okay.
Mexico. It took a minute. So if you could just repeat
Okay,
that
no
real
worries.
quick.
I saw this spinning circle. I'm like, okay, hold on.
You're doing great.
You're
Okay,
a pro,
Yeah,
Amy.
let's hear it again.
that's okay. So I'll tell you about the frase method here. So the long story short is that people really struggle to put together full sentences, and they often wait until they're at a much higher level to be able to do that. But I know that it's the glue that holds together the language, and we need to start doing that right away. So I'll take an everyday situation. It might be like going to the corner store, and you're going to hear and need, like, you're going to hear certain things, and you're going to need to say certain things. So, for example, if you go in Spanish, it's really normal to say me da, which means, can you give me whatever you want? And then, it gets handed to you. The person's going to say algo más, anything else. You say nada más, nothing else, that sort of thing. So, anyway, we can create a whole dialogue with some really common phrases that include common words and help people to practice. But I mean, every single lesson is using, okay, I'm going to introduce me da, for example, the give me, plus some other things, plus some more stuff. And before you know it, you're making this 10-word sentence, and you understand how to manipulate that sentence and take out this and add this and change this verb and modify this thing. And it's really, really cool to see students be able to bring things together and adjust their Spanish according to the situation at such a beginner stage of the language. So that's kind of what frase is and how it works.
That's so cool. It's like instead of, having to rigidly follow, you got to learn this verb and then you got to conjugate it or whatever you do to it, then you've got to do this. You're actually just saying, okay, let's build a sentence so that you can sort of get to where you want to be without having to wait for 6 months to get there.
Exactly. And it's really, I mean, we can say the 80-20 rule, but this is kind of like the 95-5, where you're really honing into this stuff that you're going to be using immediately. And from the teacher side of the course, this isn't just survival Spanish where you're just memorizing a bunch of phrases. You're actually learning the structure at the same time. But at the same time, I know, for example, both of you and everybody listening right now can remember 2 syllables. They can remember me da for can I get, can you give me? And we don't need to learn the semi-intermediate grammar that goes with that to learn that phrase. So it's sort of, as the course creator and making up the curriculum, there are moments where it's important to cut corners and to drop the details to facilitate the learning that can happen. Because one way or another, you can either take the route of having the tsunami of information coming at you and not really be able to use it, or we can take the route where you're going to be able to use it quickly and you're going to be missing a lot of details. Either way, you're going to be making mistakes. It's just part of language acquisition, and we got to roll with it, but you can choose your path, which one you want.
Very cool.
I love it. So let's get back to marketing a little bit, Amy. You offer on your expatSpanishLessons.com website a free 25-minute trial lesson where anyone can just grab a slot on the calendar and get a free 25-minute lesson. This is not your garden variety lead magnet. So we're just curious, how did you come up with this idea? And what has your experience been like using it?
Yeah, so I think a big part of this is how specific the messaging is on my website. People
Right.
know immediately if they're not in Mexico, this isn't for them. And that's because it's really hyper focused on the Mexican Spanish dialect, basically. And also that you're living abroad. You're either currently abroad or planning on living abroad soon. So that brings in people that are kind of within the right realm. They're either facing the problem now or they're anticipating that problem coming in. Now, I think most of us know that when we have conversations with people that come to our website, there's a lot higher likelihood of that person becoming a client or a customer of yours.
Yep.
So I have nothing different there. People come in, I learn about them, I figure out through just a couple of minutes of chatting with them what their approximate level is. And then I can offer a trial lesson that I think would place them in the correct course. And if I see that they're really struggling, I might dial it back and switch the lesson, ask them if they've got a few extra minutes, and do a different one. But it's really an effective way of demonstrating that I can read their level, I know where to place them, and the course is going to be useful for them. So, I mean, from the lead magnet perspective, I don't have a ton of people that are coming in right now, so I'm able to manage that. But I've also really struggled with the group bookings. I find that a one-to-one lesson, where I have about 80% of the people that actually show up. With a group booking, it's about 30% of the people.
Huh.
And that's a lot of leads and people that are coming in that I'm losing just because it's a group class. So I believe that once I have a higher volume, I might do that just for time benefit. But for right now, I'm just finding that the one-to-one trial is very, very effective to filling the courses and placing people exactly where they need to go.
Very cool. Um, Not to harp on your marketing genius, however, um, people in sales talk about qualifying the sale or qualifying the lead to, basically make sure, is this a prospect? Is this someone I should be selling to? But a lot of times they forget the importance of disqualifying the lead, meaning it's actually good for people to bounce from your page if they want to speak French.
Yes.
It's the wrong page, or if they to your earlier point, you're really sort of zeroed in on people who are expats living in Mexico. If
Mm-hmm.
that's not sort of who you are probably in the wrong place, and
Yes.
that's okay.
Further to that, actually, on my booking form, one of the questions is, why is learning Spanish top of mind? And what is your approximate level? So if people are coming in and they're already conversational, I know that I need to send their trial to our teacher who deals with them instead of me. And I also see at the top of mind, for example, someone from Madrid, they wanted to have expat Spanish. They're an expat, they want to learn Spanish, but you know what? That type of Spanish is totally different. And I know I can't serve them. So I'll immediately cancel the booking and just send them a message and let them know that they're not really the right fit for what I'm doing.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
I love it. I love the pre-qualification. I love it.
Saves a lot of time.
um,
It's
Me
really
again.
important.
it
Absolutely.
it takes courage too. I mean, because some people might feel like they're losing business, but the truth is that you're actually building business. I mean, that's how you build it. Speaking of which, some people on our podcast are solopreneurs, they're entrepreneurs, or they're thinking about doing it. What is one actionable strategy or tip that you could give our audience if someone is thinking about starting a new business?
Okay. So I'm one of those people that has an idea, and I might be a little bit eager and excited to just jump on it and throw myself out there and do it. But that's not a really tendency that a lot of people have. There's a lot of planning that's going into it before even dipping your toe in the water. I think that that tendency for me comes from the experience and just knowing that the sooner I can try and figure out if it works, the sooner I can move on to something else. But one mistake that I see a lot of people make is really over planning, and they think about what they're going to do and every detail has to be perfect. And as an entrepreneur, I'm sure both of you agree, it is, a lot of fly by the seat of your pants time evaluating like what is going on, what is the best decision I can make with the current information I have right now, because it's
Yes.
not perfect.
Absolutely.
And you need to move fast when you're small. And when you're just starting out, you have nothing to lose. Like, just try it. If you have an idea, you've got to go through the motions of, explaining what you do and explaining it really poorly a lot until you get better. And, you're not really going to be able to do that until you try. And just
Yeah.
like, making a video for the first time, recording a podcast, being on an interview, it takes practice.
Yep.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. That is true, 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 true. And it's kind of counterintuitive to what we've been taught from day one, in kindergarten all the way up to when you graduate from high school or college. It's like, you've got to prepare, you have to know everything, you have to do this, you have to do that. Once you actually are in the real world of trying to start something, it's really good to not allow the perfect to be the enemy of the good and get in there and do it, fail fast, and then keep going.
Yes, absolutely.
It's perfect.
So, Amy, what is something that you have learned in the last 6 months that you may think could be of help to someone listening today?
Okay, so I have written on a little chalkboard over here. If it was written clearly, I'd show you it, but my housekeeper kind of dusted it off. It's simplify, more time, and strategy. Those are the 3 words and focuses that I have right now. Simplify has been the thing that I have been hammering away at. And I believe it's really, really important, because I tend to overcomplicate things and really want to do everything to 100%. Good enough is not really part of my vocabulary. So with that problem and challenge that I face, I have to also recognize that I'm a solopreneur. I have a little bit of contracted help, but I have to manage my time, and doing 100% of everything takes a lot of time. So before starting things now, I really try to identify the minimum viable version of
Yep.
what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And like, for example, I have a course idea that I'm toying with. I think it could be helpful for people in between course levels to have some practice materials and things like that. And what I'm probably going to do is ask my teacher to create, 3 or 4 lesson modules of this course and sell it and see who wants to buy it. And then if there is interest, we will continue. If not, I'm just going to give a refund and stop in my tracks.
Mm-hmm.
I might even send out an email asking people if they would be interested in this sort of thing, past students, to get an idea before even doing those first few steps. But just having a simplified version of what you want to do and realizing that you can make it better when you have more resources, I think that's something that's really helpful.
Gosh,
So
I love this advice.
what are the 3 things you can simplify? What are the other 2?
More time. This is probably my biggest challenge right now. I don't want to say I'm a workaholic, because I feel like I'm working toward not work, but I do need more balance. So I have to learn to hire and delegate and do that sort of thing to try to have more balance between work and personal time. And the other one is strategy. Just really, that one comes from every time that I felt like I'm in the middle of a tornado and the world is falling apart. Stopping, which is the most counterintuitive thing on the planet at that moment, whether you're facing a burnout or whatever is going on, but you're like, wow, I don't know what to do. And you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. The number one thing that has always helped me has just to stop, organize, strategize, identify the things that are really going to make the biggest difference to solve my biggest problem or bottleneck that I'm facing right now, and regroup and come back. So working with strategy is really important as well.
Very
That's
cool.
fantastic. And I always say, and I would also add prioritize,
Yes.
because when you're feeling like that, you can't do everything. So
No.
helps sometimes just to take out a pencil and paper and say, what do I really have to get done first? What's next? So that you can focus your energy on what's the most important. So
Exactly. Yeah. And I always ask myself if, the business is going to fall apart, if this waits for a week or 2 weeks. And the ones that are like, well, it's probably a good idea to get that done, those are high priority.
Great.
That is excellent. The second question we ask people toward the close of our podcast is this: is there a business challenge that you're facing where our viewers might be of help?
Yeah, definitely. Um, I think right now the biggest challenge that I'm facing is just gaining that stability of students coming in, and that's coming from a lack of reach in my marketing. And although I'm starting to dabble in Facebook ads and things like that, and that's helping, I think that there's a tremendous power in the connections that people have. And I feel that everybody that's watching this right now probably knows somebody that they could either recommend or connect me to if they're kind enough to take the couple of minutes to do that. So first of all, if you know anybody who is living in Mexico or maybe is a snowbird that probably should or might want to learn Spanish, just forwarding the link and saying, hey, I found this website, thought you might like it, that would be great. For some of them, people who are business connections, obviously we're on LinkedIn. So if you know anybody else who has a podcast or a way where I can share what I do with other people, happy to talk about my entrepreneurial journey, language learning, different things like that. Just really making the connections that can help what I do be seen by more people so that, I can obviously get that reach that we're all after.
But you're doing your podcast. What were the numbers? Your
Oh,
subscribers, it's pretty good. I mean, you've got a lot of people tuning in, do you not?
yeah. I just on a side note, we've been focusing on Expat Spanish Lessons, but my other website is realenglishconversations.com, which is most well known for its podcast. I'm thinking about starting a podcast for Expat Spanish, but we're not there right now. But yeah, with the Real English Conversations podcast, we have between 10 and 12,000 downloads a day, and listeners from all over the world. It's very, very successful podcast, helping a lot of English learners to improve their fluency on their journey.
10
Excellent.
to 12,000 downloads a day. Seriously. I mean, that is crazy.
And the idea it came really from the same problem, right? And right where I found and discovered the solution to my Spanish learning, I was studying materials from a different podcast. They were teaching Spanish through conversation, and it was just a natural everyday conversation. And I was looking at other resources that were around for English learners. I wanted to teach Spanish, but I knew that I was really bad at that point, so I couldn't yet. And but anyway, I thought, well, I've got my native language, English, and I think that my husband and I could record a really interesting podcast through conversation. And we just started off. I mean, this is like the upgrade mic. We had like a mic, I don't know what it was, $80 or something like that. Put it in the echoey kitchen in the middle of the table, and that's kind of how we started. And I just watched, actually, there's a really great podcast series by Pat Flynn, and he explains step by step what to do about some podcast SEO tips and things like that. Followed it to a T. And within a very short period of time, we had really good traction. We got into the new and noteworthy section on iTunes. And I had 2 podcasts on that site and managed to do the same thing for both. So it works. Go find that tutorial.
Wow, great tip. Excellent. Amy, thank you so much for joining us today. I feel like this has been so valuable. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And audience, you can reach Amy on her website at expatspanishlessons.com. I'll also have a QR code for that in the outro. And if you can send some business her way, please do so. And we'd also like to tell you about a new tool that we have called Story Quotient, which is a tool that scores your website content for its storytelling to help you find out if you're really creating content that engages with your audience. And there's a QR code for that at the end of the show as well. So thanks again, everyone. Stay well, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you, Amy. Take care. Thank you for
Thank you,
joining us.
Amy. You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.